Some games attempt to put players in a state of heart-pounding fear, the feeling that a jump scare could be around the next corner. Some build a state of dread through incidental storytelling and contextual moments, designed to make your hair stand on end. Home Saftey Hotline arguably achieves the latter, but for how long? I enjoyed my time and would recommend Home Saftey Hotline to someone who's after a horror game cut from the mould of liminal spaces, shady organisations that invite you to see what's in their basement, and the fantastical, though in this case horrifying, presented through the lens of the mundane. Thankfully, the only issues I have with the game are present in its final moments, and I'll discuss those in detail. As a forewarning, this review is going to spoil large portions of the game itself, so if you haven't played the game or want to go in blind, which I'd strongly recommend, then play the game first. Home Saftey Hotline, created by indie developer Night Signal Entertainment, is an analog horror game set in the late 90s, where you assume the role of a new Home Saftey Hotline responder for the Home Saftey Hotline Corporation. Each shift you will mostly receive calls from people detailing an issue. This will require the player to pay attention to what they say, as sometimes they'll describe symptoms of an issue without actually describing the issue itself. A great example of this is the first shift, where you'll receive a call from Tim, and he describes,
"Hey, do you guys have a lawn mowing service or something? My good-for-nothing kid refuses to mow and it's getting real crazy out there. Looking like a rainforest over here. My kid is complaining about being too sick to do anything about it. Meh, 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 meh. Stress of this stupid lawn's giving me a headache just thinking about it. Can you send some guys up to get this done?"
So he's mentioned tall, unruly grass and his kid being sick. Reviewing the handbook, this points towards ticks, despite Tim not having mentioned any bugs or pest issues. It's a simple early call, but one designed to get you in a probative frame of mind for the rest of the game. These events start off as simple household problems like ticks, black mold, carpenter ants, but ramps up to the fantastical and creepy very quickly. The presentation of the game is reminiscent of Windows 95, with chunky text, old HTML pages, and pop-ups that evoke a familiar feeling of old PCs. Adding to this, the CRT screen overlay in front of the game adds to that grungy, dirty look of older monitors. There are options to change this, but for the full experience, I'd strongly recommend leaving the options as they are. Interesting to note, the game also has a number of phobia toggles for triggering material, like arachnophobia or nyctophobia. However, these only affect in-game photos and not descriptions, audio and/or video. Each shift begins at your home screen. You can read emails that have been received, review your handbook, and in the coming days, view videos that appear on your home screen. Most of these aren't related to the story, but they do help in providing some context for the world we inhabit. When you're ready to begin, you double-click on homesafetyhotline.exe and the subsequent clock-in screen to begin your shift.
Hello, Supervisor Carol here again. We've updated your permissions. You should now have access to more extensive information to work with for your future calls. Please be sure to read these new entries carefully so you can continue providing our clients with accurate diagnoses. Please remember that this information is strictly confidential and not to be shared with anyone unless pertinent to a caller's needs. Thank you.
Your first call is usually Carol, starting off your shift with information, and as the days progress, she will increase the entries in your handbook as the game's world slowly begins to reveal itself to you. Her style of communication also changes with each new shift, adding to the intrigue of who Carol is and just who are the corporation behind Home Saftey Hotline. After your call with Carol, you'll start receiving calls from people detailing an issue. The core gameplay loop is paying attention to what they're saying, and the handbook will usually provide the answer as long as you're paying attention to the right things. It's strongly advised to read this handbook as much as possible while a customer is on hold, as there will be moments where the HSH network goes offline, and you won't be able to refer to the handbook for the answer, relying on what you've taken the time to learn. Once you feel you have deduced what the issue is, you then provide the customer with an information package that will explain to them how they can deal with their issue, and at the end of each shift, you're rated on your accuracy of the information package provided. Though these are less incoming calls and more akin to a voicemail message that you then put on hold while you research the query before providing an answer. I would have loved to have had more back and forth with a caller, rather than the very simple call and respond that's present. You are encouraged to end each shift with a 90% or above accuracy rating, as you will receive a discount code for a HSH branded item. These items serve no purpose in game beyond giving more context for the lore of the world and HSH as a company. Continually blending the horrifying with the mundane is HSH's bread and butter, and it does that very well. In aid of achieving an above 90% accuracy, you have your handbook. This is where a bulk of the gameplay lies, and a great piece of world building that speaks matter-of-factly, giving a description of the entity, the danger that entity poses, and a solution to the issue. In some cases, this can be downright creepy. My favourite instance of this is how cavalier the handbook describes an entity known as a false artifact. False artifacts are seemingly human-designed objects that can manifest suddenly inside a home. They are known for making gentle buzzing sounds that can usually only be heard by very young human children or small animals. Homeowners with false artifacts often report out-of-place objects or missing children or pets. False artifacts, while not a direct threat to adult humans, can pose a significant risk to small human children and animals. Should a child or pet be left alone with a false artifact, they are at risk of being encased within. Once encased, no noise made by the prey can be heard. While digestion can take upwards of several years to complete, starvation can be a more pressing concern. Once a false artifact has been identified, removal is as simple as physically moving the object out of one's home. HSH pest removal services should be called to come and remove the object. Should a pet or loved one already be encased within, one can utilize a memory wisp to speed up the grieving process. As the shifts and days progress, new videos will find themselves on your homepage before the beginning of a new shift. While all of these won't assist you with your calls during a shift, they provide additional insight and context into the world HSH inhabits.
This is a missing persons alert. Authorities are currently looking for missing child Robbie Parker, male, brown hair, approximately 4 feet tall, last seen wearing a yellow shirt, brown shorts, and white tennis shoes. Suspect is described to be approximately 6 feet tall, barefoot, wearing a large bush or shrub on their person. Last seen at approximately 10:25 a.m. Please report any unusual activity to your local authorities.
In fact, from most of the calls, they'll mention that they've already spoken to a doctor or a police officer who directs them to call HSH.
Call this number. I have no idea why. He won't tell me anything. He said you could help, so here goes nothing, I guess. So I've recently been having just the worst headaches, and just barely I woke up and felt my eyes were starting to look kind of pink. I'm really freaked out right now, and I'm not sure what I have. I can't find anything online. Can you help me?
This is a nice additional touch, implying and contextually explaining There are some people out there that have some idea what HSH is, and from the descriptions provided by the customers you speak with, it's very clear they want nothing to do with it, usually directing the customer to contact HSH and saying nothing further. From here on out, there will be spoilers for the events leading up to, including, and after the final day. If you are interested by anything I've said, please consider giving the game a try. Alright. As you continue your shifts, Carol's speech changes, though she retains her bubbly tone.
Hark, employee. Lend thine ear once more. Supervisor Carol here again. I've updated thy permissions to grant thee access to all relevant household hazard information. Continue thy labors, employee. Soon thy time in the soil arriveth. Prepare thy body.
Her speech adopts a more medieval tone, hinting at potentially how old she is, and just how long HSH has operated. Before you start your Sunday shift, you'll receive an email advising that you are being prepared for a promotion. The warnings received earlier on weren't heeded, and you are now to experience what happens. Your final shift is Sunday. However, Sunday takes a departure from the flow of previous shifts. You don't receive calls from people or customers detailing their issues. You instead receive calls from mostly faceless beings speaking in tongues, which is transcribed as a riddle. Though the same gameplay loop exists, they'll provide a riddle and it will correspond with an entry in the handbook. One key difference about this day is that once you've started your shift, you cannot review the handbook, as this is a test of your knowledge and how much you've researched.
Please hold.
Should you achieve a 90% or greater accuracy, you will be praised by Carol, now with open, glowing green eyes as the facade of her appearance slips away.
Hello. Supervisor Carol here. We've been watching you closely. For all this time, you have been providing excellent and accurate answers to our callers. These acts will not go unrewarded, and I'm pleased to report that you have qualified for a promotion. Please stand by while I prepare thy promotion. Promotion in progress. Please stand by.
She starts to take on the presence of a dryad, almost spiritual in appearance. Prepare your body for the soil, as you awaken in a forest with the new appearance of Carol before you. This scene takes place in live action. As you approach Carol, she places a wooden crown upon your head, stating for all to praise their new junior supervisor.
Congratulations! All hail our new junior supervisor!
Then the credits play. So yeah, that happens. I would describe it charitably as an interesting note to leave the game on. The intrigue and suspense effectively boils down to a Tim Burton-esque horror tune filled with masked people peeking out behind trees and over bushes. I can appreciate media that tries something different or takes a strange turn. Unfortunately, in the process, it reduces the horror and intrigue by completely revealing the inner workings of the corporation and ending with a campy number to wrap up the experience. In the end, there are no real mysteries left unresolved beyond a few esoteric entries in the handbook. The prank caller present on most shifts is dealt with, immediately followed by a mid-shift call from Carol explaining that they have been dealt with. And you'll receive one final call from this prankster, and should you achieve the bad ending, it will also explicitly spell out what happened to them as the same fate befalls you too. Home Saftey Hotline's overall issue is it does not know how to leave the horror of the unknown well and truly alone. Most of the information and situations it presents, it explains very clearly. Sometimes the deepest and darkest fears we have no answer. And that's the scariest thing of all, the unknown. Though with Home Saftey Hotline, this isn't something you have to worry about, as almost all questions are answered after its 2 to 3 hour game time. Part of this short time frame means there's a bit of an issue with pacing. As the game isn't very long, it ramps up very quickly, and while it could be argued this grounds the game in the fiction of its own world, it doesn't take long to depart the mundane at all before images, sounds, and videos of the unsettling start bleeding into the experience. While the game is a short, contained experience, it would certainly benefit from a longer ramp up to the horrifying and have more time to let the player stew in that unsettling feeling. I like a lot of what Home Saftey Hotline does or sets out to achieve. Arguably, it achieves it. In its final moments, though, it does away with all the fear it's earned by undercutting the creepy vibes it's spent all game establishing. I do still recommend this game as a fun, albeit brief experience into its world, though the ending and credit sequence will have you scratching your head. I'd love to see the developer add on to the world of Home Saftey Hotline, more interactions with callers, more time to let the horrors build, and hopefully, no strange tonal departure in the game's final moments.